a lead developer at BrightGen, and I'm here to tell you about a tool I've built called Schema Puker and how it can make your ERDs easy. So, I don't know if you've ever tried to generate an ERD from Salesforce before, but it's a massive pain. You could go into the schema builder, you could have a look in there and realize you can only take a screen dump of what's in there, and then go and build the thing in Lucidchart or Visio yourself. If you're not sure what I mean by ERD, an ERD is an entity relationship diagram. It's a graphical representation of your Salesforce data model or your database. And what Schema Puker does for you is builds one of these, or rather builds a file that you can export into a tool like Lucidchart to build these ERDs for yourself. So why would I bother building a tool like this? Generating ERDs as a Salesforce consultant or even as a Salesforce developer is something you have to do quite frequently. The client might want a picture of their existing data model or an example of how you propose to make changes to it. So it's a tool that will make people's lives easier, make consultants, admins, developers' lives easier. The other reason I built it was to learn something new. The technologies that I used to build Schema Puker were things that I'd not necessarily worked with before, so it was a good excuse to try something different. So the idea originally came from a colleague of mine from Cloud Sherpas called David Everett. He had built a tool similar to this. He built it using Visualforce and Apex, which was a brilliant idea. But obviously, a Visualforce and Apex solution's got some limitations. So I went through a couple of iterations of the tool, the initial Visualforce version by David, a desktop version that I built, and finally the web-based version that we have today. So how does it work? I built it with Java using the Spring MVC framework, and it runs on Heroku. So it authenticates to Salesforce via OAuth 2, and it doesn't store any data about your org. So once you're done using Schema Puker, there's nothing left behind. As soon as you log out, it's gone. But you might be wondering about the name. So I was having a talk with Dave Carroll, who works for Salesforce, and telling him about this ERD tool that I built. Now, I was originally going to call it Salesforce ERD tool. Very creative, I know. And he suggested Schema Puker might be a little bit more of an interesting name. So I thought, why not? I'll run with that. So let me just show you how it works. So if you go to schemapuker.herokuapp.com, and I know the screen's a little bit small, let me zoom that in a bit. That's probably a bit much. All you do is choose your instance, a production or sandbox, and press login. It's going to take you to Salesforce where you'll enter your credentials. Got mine saved, and we'll log in. Once that loads up, we're going to get a list of our Salesforce objects. Just zoom that out a little bit. That we can see here. So we've got the name of the object and its API name next to it. So I'm just going to grab a couple. I'm going to grab account and contact. The other thing you can do is enter object API names directly into this field. So like opportunity. We've got a couple of options. We can show only relationships or all fields. I'm just going to show relationships as it can get quite messy if you've got a lot of fields. And hit submit. What that's going to do is generate this big panel of text here. This is a Postgres SQL schema file. We can also download it if we want to use it for later, but I'm going to copy and paste it. So I'm going to grab it and copy it. Next I'm going to go into Lucidchart, but you could use Visio or another charting tool, and create a new document. Once that loads up, I'm going to go to Shapes, choose Entity Relationship, hit save, and now I can import my information. I can browse for the file if I downloaded it, or I can paste it in directly. Now as you can see in the sidebar, I've got my Salesforce objects. I've got account, contact, and opportunity, the objects that I chose earlier. So I'm going to drag those on, and you can see that it automatically generates the relationships between these objects. If I wanted to, I could create a new table. If I was proposing a change to the data model, I could make changes to the fields shown there. But this is a nice, easy way that you can have your ERDs in Lucidchart ready to be modified or just outputted. So how do you get it? schemapuker.herokuapp.com. It's free. You just go there and hit login. You don't need to do anything else. If you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer now or after this. And here's a list of resources and information about the various technologies that I used and the tool that I built. Thank you.